I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 114, How to Be an Awesome Supervisor. Awesome. Brilliant. This vlog comes today via request, as almost all of our vlogs do, but this is a particularly special one. As some of you may remember, this vlog commenced life because I wanted to have a way to communicate, to see and talk and care for a whole series of people that are outside of Adelaide, outside of South Australia, and particularly for our wonderful students in the Northern Territory. In fact, in a very early vlog, I think I said something like, if one person in Darwin sees these vlogs and it helps them, then it is worth doing. And I meant that at the time. I mean it now. But the amazing thing is, hundreds of thousands of people around the world have watched these vlogs, for which I am incredibly grateful. But that one student from Darwin actually came and saw me. She contacted me. She's a remarkable woman, and she came down and visited me in the Office of Graduate Research. She was as remarkable and inspirational as I knew she would be. So Guzyal came and saw me in the Office of Graduate Research, and she gave me this very, very special necklace which I'm wearing today to honour you and thank you for what you do, for what you will continue to do, and the transformation that you will enact in regional education in this country. I honour you for this, and I honour you by wearing this today. So basically, Guzyal was the person I had in mind when I was writing these vlogs. Oh, how would somebody feel doing a PhD in Darwin? What could I do to make that journey a little bit easier? And she gave me this vlog request as we were sitting sort of looking at each other very intensely in the office. She said, you know what, I do have a vlog request for you. So someone so special, so important, and really so inspirational for what we do in the Office of Graduate Research, I would obviously deliver this vlog to her. And she cared very deeply about being a supervisor. At the conclusion of her PhD, she wanted to go on and supervise, much to the horror of her husband, can I say. But she wants to learn from her experience, but also transform the lives of others in regional education. She wants to be a remarkable supervisor. And in fact, she didn't say remarkable or strong or powerful or splendid. She said, Tara, I want you to tell me how to be an awesome supervisor. And I love that word, awesome, awesome, awesome. It's like Raj's request last week about the word thrive. Awesome, awesome supervisor is a fantastic commentary on what we're trying to get you guys to do and maybe become. So it is my absolute pleasure for such a remarkable woman to try and do something that may be of use to you in your career after your PhD. So as I was preparing this vlog today, I thought, what am I going to do in this vlog? I could repeat some tips and some tricks for being a great supervisor. That's great. I could present some andragogy, so some theories of teaching and learning that operate in the doctoral space in such a transformative space at the moment. So I could do all of that. But that's not the point, is it? How do you be awesome? Because on this YouTube channel that so many of you have subscribed to, for which I'm incredibly grateful, you'll see I also upload all the training materials for our supervisors at Flinders University. I do that for many reasons, so it's open access, open source, which is what I believe in, but also it is for our students to see how we are training our supervisors. So if you want that training material to be a supervisor, that's already available to you now. So this session needed to do something a little bit different. It needed to focus on how you become awesome. And that's an awesome responsibility. So I thought, right, well, if I could build, sort of like the bionic woman or the bionic man, build them. If I could build the perfect supervisor, the awesome supervisor, what would that person look like, think like, speak, behave? What would they be? And if I was building that awesome supervisor, I suddenly realised something quite remarkable. I can train you to supervise. That's relatively straightforward. The andragogy is clear. The teaching and learning is clear. I can teach you how to supervise. I can give you the tips and tricks that make sure that students get through reasonably quickly. So all of that is very, very clear. But an awesome supervisor, I can't train you to to be an awesome supervisor. You're probably born an awesome supervisor. So as I prepared for this vlog, I thought, right, if I was thinking about the truly awesome supervisors that I've known around the world, there are wonderful, awesome supervisors at Flinders, but the truly great supervisors I've known around the world, I can't teach them to do that. But there are 5 characteristics, I think. So for all our wonderful students in the territory, I particularly dedicate this to you, and how to be an awesome supervisor. So let's do this. How to be an awesome supervisor? Number 1, be a decent, ethical person. This might seem like a no-brainer, but it is probably the most important. Any of us who read ombudsman reports from around the world, or the Respect Now Always report from Australia, all the fascinating, complicated, truly terrifying and disturbing research that exists in doctoral education at the moment, one thing is clear. There are dreadful predators that exist in the doctoral space. There are dreadful, predatory supervisors. Full stop. And look, I've seen some shockers in my career. I very rarely talk about it because I still find it upsetting to this day. You know, during my PhD years as a very, very young, relatively innocent and inexperienced PhD student, the stuff I saw in academic corridors still chills me and confuses me. As an early career researcher, you know, I looked into the abyss and I saw a lot of horror there. And similarly, as a senior scholar, the stuff that we see, you shake your head, but you also want that activism element too, because you just go, oh, isn't this horrendous? But then you want it to stop. You want to make sure that this is the last generation where this sort of behaviour is perpetuated, but also accepted. So we know there are supervisors who trade sexual favours. We know there are supervisors who pretty desperately take authorship off their own students in all sorts of problematic ways. And there's all sorts of supervisors who demand attention, demand flattery from the community of their PhD students. So if I am constructing an awesome supervisor, we have to commence with the characteristics of a decent, ethical person. They understand the power that we hold, and they wield it with care, and they wield it with respect. Every action they enact comes from a duty of care. So remember the deal breakers here: sexual transgression, professional, personal breaches. Aim to be decent, respectful, and yes, always kind, with a clear sense of your limits, the limitations to your power, and the integrity that is important to you every single day. Awesome supervisor 2, selfless, caring, and compassionate. One of the horrors that accompanied me when I returned to Australia after a decade away was the incredible selfishness and self-absorption of academics. It was stunning for me, guys and gals. So I've been away for a decade, been in Canada, been in the United Kingdom, you know, and I'd been a very senior academic, a professor, a head of department, head of school, ran research for an entire institution at one circumstance. So I had very, very serious and senior roles. But I also taught first years, and I loved teaching first years every single day. I supervised, I had great relationships with colleagues. That was my experience, particularly in the United Kingdom. And then I returned to Australia after 10 years, and I came back to a very, very different Australia and a very, very different higher education sector than the one I had left. This was a place where self-absorption and selfishness and inwardness seemed to rule. I was absolutely horrified. So I started to hear phrases like, I'd never heard this stuff before anywhere in the world. I started to hear phrases like people talking to me and saying, well, I'm the international expert in this field. And I'd sort of nod and go, oh, right, okay. I'm the international expert in this field. And when I'd be questioning why they had selected a friend to be an examiner for their PhD student, they said, oh, well, look, there are only 2 or 3 experts in this field in the world. I'm one of them, and I'm friends with the other 2. And you can see this was said so often to me, I actually know it. It's almost a Propian folk tale. So like this is said to me so frequently since I've come back to Australia, what, about 5 years ago. So I don't know where this stuff has come from, but wow, it's disturbing. So I used to come home after these people had be saying this mantra to me day after day after day. I used to come home and say to Steve, Steve, have you ever heard of these people? And he'd go, never heard of them. And I'd never heard of them either. So it was like, you know, and Steve and I, we work through multiple disciplines. We know a large number of people around the world, and we read very, very widely. And I hope we're always intellectually generous. We seek out actively new scholars, new ideas, new ways of thinking. We find the new people and the new voices. And I use some past tense there, for which I apologise. Present tense for me, past tense for poor Steve. But it is clear that these guys and gals are famous in their own mind. Okay, so look, I am an international expert. Well, are you? You know what the nature of academic life is? You haven't got the right to call yourself an international expert. That phrase is bestowed on you by the great international scholars in the field. You can't claim it. It is given to you by others. And the other fascinating thing I've learnt through my life is the greatest scholars in the world, the people that have actually changed knowledge, never, ever, ever shout about it. They never, ever do the look at me, look at me, look at me. They are brilliant and they are recognised for it by others. Their work has integrity. They do their research and their research is recognised as being of value. They don't have to spruik it. So aim to aspire to be one of those great people where the work speaks for itself. The research is of such a high quality, of such power and interest and innovation that it speaks for itself. Produce great work, don't shout about it, and then park your own career, because your career is going fine, park your own career and focus on the needs of the student. 3, awesome supervisor. 3, a belief in learning. Now, yes, awesome supervisors believe in learning, but I can't tell you how many academics around the world complain about professional development. So why do I have to do professional development? I'm an experienced supervisor. I don't have to do professional development. Well, you do, because the world is changing every single day. Doctoral education is changing radically, month upon month and year upon year. So how you used to supervise probably doesn't have a huge amount of relevance to what is happening now. So also, we work in a university. We have the great privilege of working in a university. So we are in the learning business. That's what we do. So how ironic is it if a PhD supervisor in a learning business, a university, says, I don't particularly want to learn? That worries me a great deal. So think about it. We've got supervisors complaining about doing professional development. That is a 1-hour lunchtime seminar. Once a year doing a 1-hour lunchtime seminar. Oh, look, I'm just too busy for that. Really? What I think we've lost from that type of culture is the recognition that learning is a gift. Learning is a privilege. It is a privilege to learn from others. I think this every single day. It is a privilege to read an article, to read a book and learn from the expertise of the great and the good on this planet. That is a remarkable privilege, and I certainly never lose that gift and that desire to learn. The best supervisors, and indeed the best people, continue to learn and believe in learning. They're intellectually generous. I use that phrase a lot, and why I use the phrase intellectually generous, it means we're very cool with who we are and what we know and what we do, but you know what? Let's listen to others. Let's learn from others. They will provoke us and challenge us, and that's great. And how can that improve my practice when I listen and care for other people's views and expertise? Now, the worst supervisors, the worst people, sit in self-absorbed satiation, bless. You know, I'm great. I don't need to learn anything. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm tremendous. But the awesome supervisor realises and remembers every day that every single one of us, we are learners. We're citizens, but we're learners. Learning is a privilege. Professional development is a privilege. Keep learning. 4, how to be an awesome supervisor. 4, be international. Be international. The awesome supervisors are international supervisors. They're not world famous in Adelaide or world famous in Darwin. They're world famous, full stop. They are also internationally curious, and they test themselves endlessly against the best ideas, the best practices, the best scholarship, the best people in the world. It isn't going to a conference a couple of times a year. Big deal, who cares? It's about on a daily basis engaging with the world, engaging with the best scholars in the world and learning and transforming and thinking globally. Thinking globally. That's what an academic is. We are scholars of the world. We are working for a particular institution, but knowledge is always and must always be international. They're not anchored by xenophobia. They're not looking inwardly to a particular place or discipline. They use deterritorialisation and the great gift of digitisation to every single day think internationally and engage internationally with the best scholars in the world. Be international. 5, how to be an awesome supervisor. Awesome supervisor. Place the PhD student and the PhD student's welfare at the core and centre of every day, every week, every month, every year. The final characteristic of an awesome supervisor is pretty clear, I think. At the start of every meeting, at the start of every week, the interests of the student are the priority. This is student-centred learning, student-facing learning, whatever you'd like to talk about it, but it just means every conversation we have, every draft we enact starts with the student's best interest. And this isn't flattering the students, this isn't always making the students feel good about themselves. Sometimes some really tough conversations have to be enacted, but those tough conversations start with always the best interests of the student. You notice this stuff is not about the supervisor. So it's not about my projects, me. It's not about my busyness, my stuff. My personal research, I park. So my stuff's over there, my writing, my research, I do early in the morning, late at night, on the weekends. When I'm dealing with my students, my busyness is irrelevant. I never use the word busy. In fact, when people say to me, and a lot of you do, oh, look, you're busy, I say, no, I'm not. I'm not busy. If I'm feeling busy, then that's my issue because I've got a time management problem. So I need to fix that. That's about me, yeah? So we can manage, as supervisors, we can manage our own research. We're grown-ups. We can manage our research. But the awesome supervisor starts and stops with the needs of the student. The student. The great supervisor, yes, listens to students, but also because we listen carefully, we can figure bespoke strategies that may be for professional development, a distinctive way of learning, of supervising, and moving you in and through your candidature and career. As we all know, I think, awesomeness is in the eye of the beholder, but there's no doubt that the best supervision is student-centred supervision. We start with the student, we start with the student's project, and it's not me, let's talk about my research. Should we just talk about me a bit more because I love talking about me, let's talk about me. That's fantastic. It's actually parking that stuff, we're the grown-ups, let's talk about the student. Now, this was a fascinating vlog for me to write for you all because it would have been very easy to go into tips and tricks, very easy to go into sort of supervisory strategies, if you will, of great scholars, maybe some hagiography, we could have done that stuff. But instead, isn't it weird that we ended up talking about decency, compassion, patience, intellectual generosity? That is the foundation of an awesome supervisor. And probably some of you may have suspected that I would, at the end of this vlog, end up quoting Peter Capaldi. I invariably do. I try to, about once every 10 or 20 vlogs, make sure there is a Peter Capaldi quote. But this actually is important because it comes from his last episode before his regeneration. So moving from his doctor to the next doctor. And there's something quite powerful about that changeover that I wanted to share with you today. He was regenerating to a new doctor, as when all of us retire, we regenerate into you. You are our future. And the last phrase Peter Capaldi uttered as his doctor was, never be cruel, never be cowardly, and never ever eat pears. Remember, hate is foolish and love is always wise. Always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. Laugh hard, run fast, be kind. Doctor, I let you go. Wow. So for all the future doctors out there, I let you go. But there is an awesomeness, I think, in your future, and it comes from unexpected sources. Being kind, being decent, being loving, being respectful. There is the foundation of wisdom there. And yeah, probably don't eat pears, they are a bit messy. Go for apples, I think, stay away from the pears. But I hope today has been useful for you. It was a great suggestion. And if we are to regenerate and rejuvenate regional education in this country, it is going to start with you. It's going to start with our wonderful colleagues in the Territory and all the regional educational students around the world that we have the privilege of supervising. And it starts and it ends with your awesomeness. So I wish you love, light and peace. Tea out.